You've got your dream journal right beside your bed or maybe under your pillow, and you wake up, but what do you write in your journal? Hi Dream Besties, Karen here, and I'm helping you go from huh to aha with your dreams. And today in this video, we're going to talk about what exactly to write in your dream journal. Basically, anything you want. No, that is true. Write whatever you want. But actually, people do tend to kind of wonder, what do we write in our dream journal? What do I put down? What is important from my dream? And that's really the bigger question. What is important from my dream? Therefore, what should I write in my dream journal? And the answer is whatever you want, but we'll go through some specifics because people often don't realize, oh, this could have meaning. So we're going to list different things, and then at the end, I'll give you kind of why you want to write these things down. The very first one that you want to write down is feelings. What were you feeling when you woke up? What were you feeling in the dream? Sometimes in a dream, you start out feeling fine, and then after a while, you might get more frustrated. Or if it's a dream where you're lost, you start to feel more panicked about being lost. Or sometimes nightmares don't start out as nightmares. They start out all fine and dandy, and then all of a sudden, next thing you know, you're running around yelling help, and something happened that you needed help with. So what were your feelings, and did they change in the dream? So that's one of the things you can write down. Next, you can write down people. Who was in your dream? You, obviously. However, was it someone you knew that was in the dream? Friends, relatives, loved ones, people from the present, people from the past? Was it your boss? Was it someone, a celebrity? Or was it a stranger? Now, a lot of times you might not know. You might be like, oh, there's a bunch of people milling around in the house. I don't know. Write that down. Bunch of people, a crowd, anything like that. Also write down like what the person was, if it was someone you didn't know, a teacher, a policeman, a doctor, like that kind of thing, a server, a waiter, a patient in a hospital. All of those things have meaning, so you want to write those things down. Now, if you want some tips on how to keep a dream journal, there's a link to a video below, and that has 7 tips on how to keep a dream journal. Another thing you want to write down when you are writing in your dream journal, remembering your dream, is places. Where were you? Were you inside? Were you outside? Were you at the beach? Were you on a mountain? Were you in a hospital? Were you in a house? A house is very important. Anytime there's a house, especially if you're in it and you're trying to find something, that's important. Were you on a train? Were you in a car? Were you in a box? Were you with a fox? But anyway, yes. So write down where you were. That's important. That can have meaning. Another thing that you can write down in your dream journal are actions. What were the things you were doing? Mostly you. What were you doing? Yes, you can write down what other people are doing if it seems important, but generally you want to write down what were you doing. Were you going somewhere? Were you looking for something? Did you hug someone? Did you buy something? Did you eat something? Were you doing a job? Were you in a school and children were running all around? And then in that case, you are writing down what other people were doing. Children were running all around. My mother gave me a hug. The bartender said something to me, whatever. So write down things that were happening because those have meaning. Those are in a dream dictionary, so you can look those up too. So write down actions. If you are getting value from the video, boop the like button below. That brings it to the attention of more people, and more people can find out because, in my opinion, everybody can benefit from understanding their dreams, and one of the first things is knowing what's important in your dream, and that's what we're talking about now. Okay, the next thing to write down is colors. Now, not everybody dreams in color, and it's a very interesting, we'll get into the history in another video of the way people dream and whether you dream in color. I don't dream in color. I dream in a kind of like sepia color, like everything's kind of brownish grayish. My mom though used to dream in color, and I don't know if that was the age difference between us or because she was a very visual person. She was a designer and an artist, and so she saw things in color. I have friends who are artists. They dream in color. They dream their paintings in color. I know other people who are not artists and who don't dream in color. So that's the first thing. Like, you don't say every night, didn't dream in color again. Like, that's not important. But for me, if I'm dreaming in my regular standard dream imagery, right? If I see something red, I note it. I'm like, oh, that was red. I need to write that down because it does have a meaning. If I see a color, it stands out, so I write it down. Now, if you do dream in color all the time, but something is like a really vivid color, write that down. or if it's like it's something that just stood out to you. But don't like try to spend the whole time trying to remember what color everything was. That's not important. But if you noticed, oh, the buildings were all white, or I was in a white bedroom, or there was this purple flower, like those kinds of things, if it comes naturally to you to describe the color as if you're telling someone, write that color down. All right, the next thing you want to write down are any animals. Animals are very symbolic, and animals do have meaning. We won't get into how to interpret the meaning of animals because actually a lot of people will look up, oh, animals represent this, like a butterfly represents change. But that doesn't mean that in the dream the butterfly represents change. So that's another video to come. But if you see any animals, write those down. They're definitely important. Dogs are pretty common to see. Cats are common to see. I know a lot of people who see rabbits, but I don't know if that's common for most people. It may be just for the stage of things and projects that we're working on that we see rabbits. So any kind of bug, animal that you see, fish, bird, any of that, definitely write those down. And if you see a lot of them, a lot of different kinds of things, write them down. Oh, and sometimes you'll see like a combination animal, be like it was a rabbit dog, or it was like this, like not that it was a dog with a dog head and a rabbit body, but you just had the feeling that you're like, I don't know, was it a dog or was it a rabbit? Write that down. Both of those have meaning. So if you're not sure which animal it was, but it could be this one or that one, write them both down. That's important. Are you learning something that you didn't know? Because if you are, tell me about it in the comments. I'd like to hear from you. Or is there something I haven't mentioned yet? You can write it in the comments, or you want to wait till the end and see if maybe I mention it. So remember, after I finish listing all these things, I'm going to give you some whys about why we want to write these things down. So the next thing you want to write down are things or objects. Now this is the one that I find a lot of people think doesn't matter, that it's not important. So if there's a food or a piece of furniture that stands out. I dreamed once that I was doing something under a table. So that was important. The fact that I was under a table was important, right? The table had meaning. So if there's a thing, there's food, there's a toy, there's a game, there's anything like that. So any kind of objects that you stood out or you picked up or you were moving around or you did things. Now, again, objects that like stand out. Someone whose dream I interpreted, she saw strawberries in the hospital. She was in the hospital in different scenes in the dream, and these strawberries kept showing up throughout. So that was important. She did not describe and write down and have meaning for the hospital bed and the hospital wall and the hospital door and the hospital, she just knew she was in a hospital. But then the object that stood out was the strawberries. So that kind of differentiates between the different kinds of objects and things. And another thing you want to write down are any words or numbers that you either saw or you heard. So if you were trying to find an apartment and on the door there's the numbers to the apartment and you remember them, write them down. If you're on a train or you're given a ticket or something like that and there's numbers, write them down. Or words. Sometimes you're given a piece of paper and there's words on it. Like in the dream, somebody gives you a piece of paper and there's words on it. Write that down if you can remember them. Mostly for me, I don't see the words, or I don't remember seeing the words. Remember, everybody dreams, everybody has dreams. It's just, do you remember them? So for me, in the dream, I saw the words probably, but when I woke up, I couldn't remember the words. If you do remember words or numbers, those can have meaning, so write those down. I talk about what order to put these things down in your journal, like as you're writing them, in a previous video, which I will link again in the comments below. However, I do want to say that after you've written it down, that's when you can maybe try to, and you've captured it all, is then to remember, okay, this happened first, then this happened, then this happened. So like for me, I tend to forget my dream. So let's say a dream starts at A and it ends at, C. I tend to write down C first, and then I try to go back and remember up to A, because as I'm writing, I'm forgetting things, and A is what I'm forgetting. And for me, I feel like the end of the dream is more important than the beginning of the dream, but that may be different for different people. But when I'm interpreting dreams for other people, it is helpful to know what the order of things happened in, because sometimes in a dream you go on a journey and you learn a thing from point A to point C, and that's kind of important as well. So if you can remember the order of things, like after you've written down the dream or as you're writing down the dream, that's helpful to do. Another thing I want to point out about this is to write down the most memorable thing. So let's say you wake up in the dream and you're like, oh my gosh, that was such a long dream, that was such a big dream, I'm not going to remember it all. What stood out the most to you? So for example, my friend that had it was a very long dream, lots of scenes in hospitals and interacting and stuff, but the strawberries stood out the most. So if it were my dream, I'd be like, let me write down the strawberries, and then I would go around and write down everything else. I once had a dream where I was in a tent on the ocean, not a boat, a tent, and other things happened, and I can still see the dream because I wrote it down. But the main important thing for me was the fact that I was in this tent. So I wrote down the tent first, and then I was able to remember the rest of the dream and write that down. So again, if there was something that really stood out, that really kind of got your attention, that's what you want to write down. Now, I said that I would tell you why. Why do you want to write all these things down? Because when you interpret your dream, all of these things have meanings. They can all be looked up in the dream dictionary. Now, I'll do another video on what the best dream dictionary is. I'll tell you right now, it's dreammoods.com. That's the best dream dictionary online. There's probably some, print ones that are pretty good as well, but I recommend dreammoods.com as a dream dictionary. And yes, you have your own meaning for symbols. You kind of have your own dream language. And again, I'm getting on a tangent here, but I think it's important to say, but looking up dream symbols in a dictionary can often help you see the more positive meaning of a thing than the negative one that we often our conscious mind wants to, say about it. So for example, someone was talking about they saw fingers in a dream, and so your conscious mind wants to be like, ooh, that's gross, that's bad. Well, really, the point is fingers, so look up fingers, right? So that's why I recommend a dream dictionary, because it will often give you a better starting point. And we'll talk again about using a dream dictionary. That'll be in another video. But the reason you want to write all these things down is all of these things can have a meaning. And the more details you write down, the more you can understand what the meanings are. Because again, a crab could have 3 different meanings, and then a table could have 3 different meanings. But if they each share a meaning, and you have the crab and the table in your dream, then that points to which meaning is appropriate in the dream. So write down as much as you can remember all of these kinds of things. If I left something out, if I forgot, something about what you might dream, I'm pretty sure I covered everything, but if I forgot something, let me know. A lot of times people don't realize that, I can look up what standing means. I've learned, I can look up what field. I was outside in a field. Okay, that's important. Being inside, being outside. Not all the time, but if I notice, not much happened, but I was standing outside. Okay, look up outside. So that's what I mean. Write down these things. They all can have a meaning. In future videos, we are going to talk about how to interpret your dreams, but there's some more things to learn about keeping a journal. And the next one that I'm going to cover is when. When do you write in your journal? And I bet you can guess, but just in case you can't, when do you write in your journal? That's the next video. Click on that, and until then, sweet dreams.